I believe in the future, and I want the Army to understand the proposition and to develop that belief. The proof will be in its delivery, and I'm absolutely confident in that. I think that we will retain a varied vocational profession that will inspire the very best of our society to join and make a difference. And we will have the wherewithal, best in class, still to do that in a different, a more agile and more flexible way, not constrained by history, but looking at the world as it is and how it is evolving.
Army 2020 is a huge change programme. It's the biggest since the end of the Cold War. It's very significant, but I've crawled all over the plan. I'm very confident it's deliverable. I'm very confident that when we get through this process, we will be more efficient in our use of the reserves and in the integration of the reserves with a regular force. And I think we'll be a strong, energetic, well-trained army with huge experience and benefit from our time in Iraq and Afghanistan, able to carry that experience forward into the contingency space. And there's plenty out there that's going to keep us employed over the next decade or so.
What we're going for is an integrated army designed to be dovetailed together for operations. And that means both sides have to know that they're confident that they can work with each other. Yeah. That will require investment, both in training, in terms of welfare, in terms of all the things that make it happen. We have to make this work. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we must absolutely get right.
You all need to understand that the backdrop for Army 2020 is stark. The UK continues to deal with the toughest economic climate in a generation and the biggest budget deficit in our peacetime history. So you should be under no illusion that this debt is the greatest current threat to our national security. So not surprisingly, the government has made its reduction their highest priority. So we all shouldn't be surprised that the Army isn't immune from this, and we've had to shoulder some of the responsibility for reducing the country's debt, which means we've had to think long and hard about how we can maintain our standing as a world-class army, whilst accepting the type of resource constraints that are affecting everyone.
ACGS, isn't Army 2020 just about saving money, in effect doing less with less?
I can understand that's an inevitable feeling given the world as it is, the economic situation that we find ourselves in globally, not just within this country. But Army 2020 is so much more than that. I suspect that financial issue was a catalyst that prompted us to reevaluate what we were doing and think fundamentally about our business.
But the starting point was less than ideal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if we could have what we wanted and, unconstrained funds and the ability to do things as we would absolutely wish, we perhaps would have more. But there's nothing bad necessarily about being more focused. We will absolutely remain the very best army in class. You can put a properly deployable division into the field that can react in the responsive way that we are able to do. Army 2020 is front and centre now. Those other things that we have always done, defence engagement, homeland resilience, and put them up onto the stage rather than only focusing on the hard power.
So this is very much a once-in-a-generation change we're embarking on, one that has come about because of the measures set out in the Strategic Defence and Security Review, the 3-month exercise, the Defence Reform Review, and the Future Reserves 2020 Review. Now, all of these made it clear that the Army was going to have to consider a way of operating that is fundamentally different to what we do now. Hopefully you've already been briefed about what is referred to as the Carter Review, which set out to produce the most capable army we could deliver within the constraints that are being placed upon us. Now, it's important to stress two things. Firstly, General Carter worked directly to CGS, the Army Command Group, and also ministers who were all intimately involved in every decision. Secondly, this is a transformational plan. It's not about tinkering around the edges. It genuinely looks to redesign the Army, regular and reserve. And as you've already heard ACGS say, it's not simply about trying to do more or the same with less. In broad terms, 3 things drove the change, and they were direction given to the Army as a result of the 3-month exercise to reduce regular strength to 82,000. Also, the decision to uplift the trained strength of the reserve to 30,000, allowing them to deliver roles that are best suited to them. And finally, the move to create a more stable, almost exclusively UK-based army. In addition, policy shifts in the SDSR also identified the need for us to be able to offer the government a genuine range of military options in what remains a challenging and unpredictable global strategic environment. In order to do this, we've had to put the need for real agility and adaptability at the very forefront of this plan.
At the heart of the Strategic Defence and Security Review was the notion that we as a nation, and indeed those responsible nations around the world, needed to be more committed, more engaged in a volatile, changing world. We do not particularly wish to have to become embroiled in long, protracted conflicts that are expensive in blood and treasure. So by being committed out there in the world, by being engaged, by understanding what's going on in the world and assisting others where we can, and that's not just in the military power space, but in a whole range of governmental areas, that we might be able to see off some of these problems before they come to fruition. So it is a fundamental tenet, and it is at the heart of the way that we will go about doing our business.
We were always going to have to reset our army once we ceased combat operations in Afghanistan. We need to go back to being prepared and ready for an operation, not just the operation. We need to get back to a system that holds troops at graduated readiness for use on contingent operations or overseas, where they're able to deliver the full spectrum of conflict prevention or post-conflict engagement, as well as be persistently engaged here at home with our own society. It was these core roles, as well as the move to reaction forces, some held at very high readiness, and adaptable forces, both supported by combat support, combat service support, and command support capabilities held within Force Troops Command, that were the key elements of Army 2020. However, predictably perhaps, following the announcement in July 2012, the media focused on the 23 regular units that are being removed from our order of battle as a consequence of the shift to the new structure. It is important that you become familiar with the key dates for change that are going to happen. If you think of Army 2020 as a journey, right now we're only at the very start of it. For example, the majority of regular structural changes are due to be completed by April 2016, and we will gradually move to the new manpower level of 82,000 by 2017-2018. Looking at the main bits of Army 2020, this diagram illustrates the new structure, central to which are the reaction and the adaptable forces. As I've already said, it all takes into account that by the time the Army actually looks like this, we will no longer be committed to an enduring operation such as Afghanistan or Iraq, allowing us to return to a system of graduated readiness.
General, the feedback we've been getting is that people think this is going to lead to the creation of a two-tier army.
Well, I entirely reject that notion. This is going to be one army. We are moving to a high degree of integration between the regular and reserves, but also the entire army will be grounded in a solid foundation of combat training under the principle that everybody is first and foremost a combat soldier and then gets on with their specialist role. The reactive and the adaptable force, you will find that they both have very satisfying, interesting and demanding potential operational commitments.
The reaction forces will be based on 3 armoured infantry brigades and a logistic brigade commanded by a deployable divisional headquarters, as well as 16 Air Assault Brigade, who will continue to be part of the Joint Helicopter Command. The reaction forces will be trained and equipped to undertake the full spectrum of intervention tasks. They will also be responsible for generating a lead armoured task force and an air assault task force, capable of undertaking very short notice contingency tasks. Given the high readiness nature of the reaction force, it will comprise mainly regular soldiers, with only about 10% coming from the reserve. In the future, the assumption is that the reaction force will provide the basis and the initial 3 rotations of any enduring stabilisation operation. Each armoured infantry brigade will comprise 5 core manoeuvre units, a Type 56 tank regiment equipped with Challenger 2, and 2 armoured infantry battalions equipped with the upgraded Warrior, as well as a heavy protected mobility infantry battalion in Mastiff, and an armoured cavalry regiment initially equipped with CVRT, but from 2020 using a new vehicle called Scout. The Air Assault Brigade is slightly modified from how it is currently organised and will deliver 2 parachute battalions and 2 attack helicopter regiments. Logistics support to the reaction force will be provided by 101 Logistic Brigade.
We have a force design and structure going forward that enables us still to play at the high end of capability within a coalition, within a corps, within a divisional construct. We have very high readiness forces that can react very, very quickly indeed. Some would say that there's a critical mass of an army about of 100,000 and that we're now below that. Well, of course we're not. One of the key tenets of Army 2020 is an integrated army that makes much better use of its reserve components, something that we've not been able to do for a whole raft of reasons, complex reasons, for some time. It's not a regular component and a reserve component, it is one army. So that's why when you take the math of 82,000 and 30,000, trained in a different way, committed in a different way, used in a different way, and bring them together, you still have that 100,000. There's very few others out there can operate at the level that we can. And if you are one of those organisations bringing coalition together, whether United Nations, NATO, a coalition of the willing with the United States, they turn first to the United Kingdom, to the British Army.
The adaptable force will comprise both regular and reserve forces that are capable of undertaking a wide variety of roles. This will include supplementing the reaction force with light capability if it's required, but will also take in overseas engagement and capacity building. Follow-on forces for future enduring stabilisation operations, i.e. the 4th and 5th Royal-Monts, our standing commitments, presently Cyprus, the Falklands, Brunei and public duties, our UN commitments and homeland resilience. This pool of forces will be under the command of 7 Infantry Brigade headquarters during peacetime. They vary a bit in size and shape, but all come under the command of the same deployable divisional HQ that will be supported by 102 Logistics Brigade. These Infantry Brigade headquarters will also form 7 of our 10 regional points of command across the UK. The other 3 regional points of command will be provided by 1 Artillery Brigade, 11 Signal Brigade and London District. This will replace our current regional brigade structure, from whom they will take on the current role of delivering homeland resilience and engagement within UK society.
General, UK engagement and homeland resilience is going to become one of the core functions of the Army. How are we actually going to do this when in effect we're getting rid of our regional command structure?
Well, we're not getting rid of our regional command structure. What we're doing is vesting it in the brigades of the adaptable force. You will still see brigades with a regional laydown, with regional responsibilities for engaging with local leaders, the population, in doing the firm base stuff, which is considerable. So I don't see any break in service.
Key to the adaptable force concept is that during peacetime, its units will be under command of a regionally based adaptable force brigade headquarters, which themselves are also deployable. But for operations, an appropriate force package of both regulars and reserves will be selected as required for that specific task.
Sir, who are the adaptive force brigades answerable to when they have so many bosses? GOC 1 Division for Defence Engagement, GOC Support Command for the firm base, DGART for recruiting support, and to whom I'm not quite sure for UK resilience and other tasks.
Well, the brigades will first and foremost operate in the divisional context under the 1st Division headquarters, and that will be their primary chain of command. They'll have responsibilities for the firm base, for which they will answer to support command.
The new construct is designed to see an increased focus on preparing for contingency operations with a level of training that will be both challenging and relevant, leaving us ready to respond and react to the unexpected. On the equipment front, we'll look to exploit some of the kit that is returning from Afghanistan, such as Foxhound, which will equip the light protected mobility battalions in the adaptable force.
In order to maximise efficiency and output, combat, command and specialist support to the Army will be pooled within Force Troops Command. In addition, it will also include theatre entry combat service support capabilities and a security assistance group. As a consequence, this will make it the largest of the Army's formations, responsible for force preparation and generation of integrated regular and reserve units to support both training and operations. all of which it will do in line with the operational readiness requirements that will affect us all. Bringing the scale of this to life, Force Troops Command will have 8 functional brigades and the Security Assistance Group under command. Looking at each in turn, a new Intelligence and Surveillance Brigade will build on the lessons we've learnt in Afghanistan. A new Offensive Support Brigade will provide both close support artillery and precision fires, as well as leading on air-land integration. 8 Engineer Brigade will expand to command our close support engineer units, as well as EOD and search, force support and infrastructure groups. CIS support to the ARC and to the JRRF will continue to be provided by 1st Signals Brigade, whilst 11 Signals Brigade will expand to provide all CIS support to divisional and brigade headquarters, as well as to UK resilience operations. 104 Logistics Support Brigade will continue to provide theatre entry CSS, and world-leading hospital care will be provided by 2 Medical Brigade. It will also include a newly created Military Police Brigade. Whilst not deployable in their own right, each brigade headquarters will provide the functional command and staff support to the divisional headquarters. As already mentioned, 2 of the Force Troop Brigades, the Offensive Support and 11 Signals Brigade, will also have responsibility for the delivery of the firm base across the South West and West Midlands as regional points of command. The Security Assistance Group will provide a focus for upstream capacity building, drawing on the recently published International Defence Engagement Strategy and the Cross-Whitehall Building Stability Overseas Strategy. It'll have close links with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the Department for International Development and the Stabilisation Unit. The aim is for Force Troops Command to provide a potent mix of specialist, cutting-edge capabilities. As a command, it will build on our recent operational experience, but will reconfigure a number of key capabilities to ensure they are used as efficiently as possible, with their key output being the support for contingent operations.
Well, in terms of challenge and excitement, there's a degree of instability in a number of places, many of which offer the potential for future employment. First and foremost, what we intend to do is provide a really challenging, interesting and satisfying training program which will keep everybody at the top of their game and thoroughly competent and confident in their abilities. We've got some potentially very interesting operational employment coming up. For the adaptable force, the whole area of defence engagement seems to be opening up. There's considerable government interest in leveraging our capacity in that respect. And I think the reality for folks in the field army at unit, subunit and below will be some satisfying, interesting and potentially quite independent tasking in the defence engagement field. So I think there'll be plenty to keep people interested.
The operational readiness mechanism will maintain formations and units of the reaction and adaptable forces, as well as the Force Troops Command, both regular and reserve, in a cycle of graduated readiness, trained for the prescribed tasks, but with a foundation based on delivering core combat skills. Much of the detail that will make up our new operational readiness mechanism work has already been developed, and now it's being refined. From 2015, it will be based on a 36-month cycle. 12 Brigade and 16 Air Assault Brigade have already begun to move towards this, having already started to train using an interim version of the system. To help you understand it though, here are a few points. The new operational readiness mechanism will comprise another tasks year, where units of the reaction forces, adaptable forces and Force Troops Command will conduct individual and low-level collective training, focusing on career courses and skills at the troop platoon level, whilst also providing a pool of manpower to conduct experimentation and support training for other units at their point in the cycle. Next, a training year. Here units will conduct a series of simulation, procedural and field exercises. The foundation for all will be to achieve proficiency in combat operations before focusing on those skills required for specific tasks or the contingency in the following year. And then finally, a contingency or committed year. During this period, reaction forces will continue to train to ensure that they maintain the skills required to deploy on contingent operations. Adaptable force units will deploy on standing commitments, whether that be at home or overseas, or be held at readiness for overseas engagement tasks. This cycle will provide us with a routine battle rhythm. Reserves, whether they are part of the reaction or more likely the adaptable forces or force troops, will conduct training which enables them to integrate with their regular counterparts throughout the 3 years of the cycle. Of course, the wide variety of roles across the reserves will mean that different units might follow subtly different programmes. But in broad order, the principle is that a reserve subunit will train alongside a regular unit during the training year, so producing an integrated capability available for tasking in the contingent committed year. For those of the members of the reserves not deploying, routine training will continue, and in overall commitment terms, a reservist can expect to conduct an average of 30.5 man training days each year and be mobilised for up to a maximum of 1 year in every 5.
So in an army that has got used to excitement and challenge, you are confident that that's going to continue?
Absolutely am. I mean, I look around the world today, it's going to continue in a whole range of ways. We don't have to invent new things. There's an awful lot out there for us to do, indeed, that we are already doing.
A key part of the operational readiness mechanism will be the ability to train overseas, and that will not just be in Canada or Kenya. It might be alongside our allies, actually contributing to defence engagement and upstream capacity building. In other words, going to places where we identify an emerging problem, as opposed to going there after it has already gone horribly wrong. This will provide exciting opportunities to not only develop your defence engagement skills, but also to deliver this effect. Were the Army to be committed to an enduring stabilisation operation, the operational readiness mechanism would be adjusted to enable brigades to deploy at 6-month intervals. And as we've already said, it would be force elements from the adaptable forces that would form the 4th and 5th Roulements.
General, the Territorial Army, it just isn't up to this, is it?
It is absolutely up to it. When I visit units, as I do every single week and weekend, every time I talk to whatever rank in the TA, they are really excited about the changes coming down the line. They want to be professionalised, they want to be part of an integrated force. They totally understand that with military tasks being attributed to them, resources will flow to them, but with that comes accountability and responsibility, and therefore more prescription and training. They are up for it.
The major outcome of the Future Reserves 2020 Commission was a call for the reserves to be better integrated within the whole force, for them to have a more defined role and then be used routinely, not just for the worst case or only as individual augmentees. But there is more to it than that. The simple fact is that within the resources we are going to have available, it simply wouldn't be possible for us to undertake all the tasks given to the Army in the SDSR without fundamentally changing the way we use the Army Reserve. So, we need to fully integrate the Army Reserve right at the outset. And I'll stress again that reservists will be required to contribute routinely to military activity and outputs, not simply in extremis, and at every level from individual specialists to complete units, depending on the nature of the task. This will include overseas engagement, UN commitments and domestic resilience tasks, as well as what we currently see, which is support to enduring commitments and intervention operations at the larger scale. So what will we be asking the Army Reserve to do? Well, in outline, they will provide, albeit at lower readiness, roles requiring less collective training to maintain this readiness, such as the sustainment of fuel, transport and distribution, light gun artillery and air defence, and certain aspects of combat engineering and counter-IED. But also very specialist roles, such as medical, cyber, intelligence, languages and stabilisation. And finally, combat roles, principally for resilience and regeneration, but it is important to stress that this will also be as formed units, on lower risk and less complex tasks, when adequate notice to train and prepare can be given.
General, how do you envisage ensuring that the training for a unit that has a high degree of reservist support is funded so that the two elements can train together?
Well, we're going to have to achieve the resourcing solutions to get the reserves training together with their regular opposite numbers, the pairing mechanism between regular and reserve units, which will put responsibility on commanding officers to develop and make a reality of this integration, I think will inevitably produce a raft of great ideas from the working level. We've just got to ensure that we resource those ideas so that they can be put into effect.
Pairing is a crucial part of our Army's new construct. It will see reserve units formally paired with like-for-like regular units in order to deliver integrated capability for employment on operations and other tasks. Formalised pairing offers a number of advantages such as access to equipment, opportunity for integrated training at scale, but also don't forget opportunities for sport, adventure training and social events, which will give us the ability to learn from each other and develop a truly integrated outlook and ethos. The mobilisation of some 30,000 Army reservists, including over 20,000 in support of operations in both Iraq and Afghanistan, has shown that the reserves are more than capable of supporting operations worldwide and on an enduring basis. Pairing will deepen the relationship between reserves and regulars because it will be a routine thing, as opposed to just something we have to do when things get serious.
Pairing is the vital first step in setting the conditions to deliver a properly and fully integrated army. It will allow activity to be programmed and organised in a coherent way. It will deliver efficient and effective training, a better use of equipment and infrastructure, administrative efficiencies, better links to employers and local communities, and a more robust and resilient force able to deliver the diverse tasks assigned to it. In concert with roles and locations, pairing arrangements will provide the conditions for the right people to be recruited into the right posts in the right part of the country. But more importantly, it will also allow the Army to deliver what the country expects of us.
The regular Army basing announcement, which was made on the 5th of March, confirmed the laydown of regular units. Knowing where we're going to operate from is of course crucial for the effective and efficient delivery of outputs, training, fleet management and support to the whole Army in the future. Summarising this announcement again, there is going to be the core of 3 armoured infantry brigades co-located around Salisbury Plain, adaptable force brigades located close to population centres across the country, force troop command units based where possible in functional concentrations. The more recent announcement about reserve structure and basing, delivered alongside the Reserves White Paper, confirmed everything we have just said about delivering a genuinely usable, fully capable reserve that is able to integrate with its regular paired regiments and battalions. Key to this, of course, is ensuring that we have the right cap badges in the right locations around the country. This is also important as it will ensure we maintain a robust recruiting base while reinforcing national representation to ensure that the Reserve and Army remains in the public eye and is fully able to support resilience activity regionally and nationally. So it has been designed to be fully coherent with the regular basing plan. It has to be if it's to underpin the concept of a fully integrated Army.
So, there you have it. Army 2020, it's a bold, imaginative and innovative concept that will deliver a genuinely adaptable Army that's fit for 2020 and beyond. For the first time ever, the Army will be fully integrated by design, reliant on individual and collective force elements from a reformed Army Reserve for both routine and contingent operations. Get this right, and we must, and we will have an Army with greater strength in depth and flexibility. But we will also remain a top-end warfighting Army, capable of projecting force anywhere in the world. At the heart of Army 2020's reaction forces are 3 large, well-equipped and trained armoured infantry brigades, held on a high readiness cycle, more than capable of succeeding in complex conflict and winning the nation's wars. But the Army will also be configured for a broader range of tasks, with adaptable forces fulfilling standing commitments abroad, defence engagement and overseas capacity building, a role that we will conduct within a joint and interagency framework and alongside our partners and allies. This will allow us to be persistently engaged in exerting UK influence overseas, tackling risks before they escalate, and building our understanding of potential conflict zones around the globe. Our reaction and adaptable force brigades and units will be supported by a potent mix of cutting-edge capabilities concentrated within Force Troops Command. This will build on our operational experience, reconfigured to maximise efficiency and output for contingent operations. As more of the Army becomes UK-based, we must engage more fully with civil society, which includes our support to UK resilience. As CGS himself says, Army 2020 is an ambitious vision for unpredictable times. It will demand resilience, flexibility and genuine adaptability from talented and committed officers and soldiers. In return, it will provide challenge and opportunity in abundance.
It's an army of 112,000, an integrated army. That's the difference. And that's what we're going to be working on over the next months and years to achieve. And I'm confident that when we inject the energy in at the lower level through the pairing mechanism, you will see things change materially very quickly.
The men and women in the TA and the regular army, to my mind, are exactly the same. They're the same sort of people with the same shared values, standards and ethos, mission focused, want camaraderie, enjoy challenge, they want experiences, they feel taller by being a member of Her Majesty's Armed Forces, they want to lead a life less ordinary. All these things apply to the regular army as well as the TA. There is no difference.
Just think what you've done, what everyone out there has done over their careers, no matter how short or long they are. It's very varied. They've needed to be adaptable and responsive. That's at the heart of Army 2020.